Hello once again. In this video I am going to show you True Armor's update 2.3.1, which brings some very cool new features which much improve the usability of True Armor, which was its major downfall up until now, in my opinion at least. So what's new? First of all, as you can see here, there are two new spells that you can use to get an overview on how the armor that you have or that your enemies have actually affect yourself or them. So Examine Armor here is the one for yourself. So let's just use it. Oh, okay. And as you can see right now, I have actually not activated True Armor. So of course I should do that. I'm just going to load the new settings. So as you can see, they were called example settings before. Now they are called balanced settings. They are essentially the same, but not quite. I have rebalanced them, in fact, and I think they are a lot cooler now. Okay, so I have loaded the settings. Then I should wait a second because it takes a little while for the values to update after you do this. And now, as you can see, I can now exactly see how I am currently influenced. So I see the average protections against all the damage types and so on. Pretty cool. The next thing that we have is the overview spell. So the one we had right now, it only showed me how I am protected. So I know which enemies to look out for, if I have to be careful in an encounter or not, if I can go all haywire and just smash at them without regard for my defenses or not. But it doesn't tell me where the weaknesses of my enemies are. So if I don't know which weapon should I use if I fight against someone in ebony armor, for example, then I can use this spell here, the overview spell, and as you can see, it will tell you for all the different categories. And by the way, you also see here some of the other armor types that are included in the category. The first one is usually the main name of the category, and the next ones here are other armors that are also included in it. But what you can see is the 3 damage types that the armor or the category is weakest against, and the 3 that it is strongest against. So you can plan your approaches a lot better now. And you see this for all the armor types, which can be pretty useful. Then there are also some updates in the mod menu itself, which I'm going to show you now. Some things have changed. So beginning at the very first page already, you cannot apply the deflect and pierce protections separately anymore. You either apply both of them or none. Then there was this blocking page here, and there were also apply buttons for them. But I have moved them up to the general settings so that you have all of these activations in one place, basically. The next page here is new, the editor settings. And these here, they are, for example, also not saved in a custom settings file if you create one. They are only for this MCM menu to tweak a few things here. We go over these two here a little bit later. One nice feature here is show armor images. If you check this one and you click on one of these here, as you can see, it will show you the affected armors. So you can estimate easier how well they should be protected, how much the armor covers the body, and so on and so forth. And you have this for all of them, which is pretty neat. And if you want to change the settings for leather here, for example, again, you need to uncheck this first. You cannot have both at the same time, unfortunately. Then here, this one, keep general settings, is pretty simple. If you are loading new settings here in the save and load page, you may not want the general settings to be included or to be replaced, because they are like, well, I would say in general, the general settings, you only set them up once, and then you want to use the same ones for your whole playthrough probably. And if you load another setting file, what you really want is you want to change the balance of the different armor types, while this here should stay the same. And that's why there is now this button, so you do not have to reset the stuff in the general settings if you don't want that. Okay, then the next thing, there is no new function here, but I just want to show this page because I think many people don't quite know what to do with this here. And I have included tooltips down there that you can see. I have gone over all of them and I have improved them across the board. So I hope that is enough, that it's pretty understandable, everything here, and you can use it well. Not just for this page, by the way, but the tooltips are improved for all the pages. And this brings us to the next thing, and that is, you can see here, I'm looking at the scale armor right now, the category for scale armor, and previously you only had these deflect, protections, chances, and the pierce protection and chance, but what you did not have is this average protection on top here, and for the other ones as well. And this is incredibly useful if you ever want to tweak these settings yourself. You cannot tweak this one here directly, of course. It's just an info for you. And depending on what I set here, it will change. So on the right, this value is really just what it says on the tin. It's the average protection. So based on the values that you entered here, how much average protection do you get if you get hit and you are wearing scale and someone hits you with a dagger. The value that is next to that one, this one here, is I think the most important one. This value tells you how much longer, or in relation to if you were naked or if you wouldn't be protected at all, how much longer or how much more hits you can survive, basically. So if this would read 1, so that would be the case at 0 protections, as you can... Okay, I have to enter that one once for it to update. Now you can see it's 1.0. So right now, of course, if you are not protected, you would survive as long as if you were unprotected. Well, surprised. And if I, for example, now set this here very high, so in 90% of all cases, I will now be protected completely. And you can see now I can survive approximately 10 times as long as before. And this is really, really helpful. So if I would set these here up again, this would be my main criteria. So I would first think about, if I am wearing scale and some guy with a dagger attacks me, how much longer should I be able to survive compared to if I am only wearing a piece of cloth? And this is very helpful. Then the next thing is down here. There are now these new coverage values, and they are pretty simple. They are just there to account for armors that have gaps or obvious weaknesses in them. And you can set these for each of the different areas for that armor. So if I'm showing the settings, let's go here. Okay, this one is a very good example. So the first one, this Falmer armor. As you can see, there are obvious gaps in this armor. And well, if you want to be realistic, you should somehow include them in your considerations of how well it protects you. And that's what the coverage is for. So you could first of all set these values here as if your whole body would be covered really, really good. And then afterwards, you can look at the images, for example, and then you can set this down here. Okay, for example, in this case, leather armor, I said the body armor is covering approximately 58%. Of course, you also have to account for that you are basically tweaking many different armors at the same time. So even if this one here does not cover you well at all, these are actually pretty decent. So you have to take that into consideration, of course. But that's what the coverage values are for. And they work pretty, well, it's pretty simple how they work. This is basically just a multiplier for the deflect and pierce chances of all of these values here and nothing else. Yeah, that's that. Anything else? Okay, yeah, I almost forgot this one. Due to the new values that you have here, like this coverage, and also because I wanted to improve the overall usability and so on, I have changed a few things in these custom settings files. So if you have setting files from the previous version, 2.2.5 for example, they will not directly work with this one anymore. But it's pretty easy to fix them so that you can use them again. You see the name here has changed. So it's now called TA Custom Settings 1 and not TA _settings 1. Yeah, and you just have to rename the file on your disk, on your hard disk, to match this one or one of the other 5 here, other 4 actually, so that you can load it again. And then if you have done that and you load these custom settings, it will tell you that some values are missing, which is to be expected, but it's not really all that bad. You can just set them up afterwards. So for example, the coverage values here, they will then be at 0%, and you usually don't want that, because that would mean that whatever you set here doesn't have any effect. If you are not covered by anything, then the chances will all be 0 as well. And yeah, so you can just set these values. Stagger is also one that has changed a little bit. So you would also have to set this one again. And